source for everything paranormal. Paparazzi.
Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Welcome, everybody. We're happy to have you back to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen. And we are being brought to you on the ParaX Radio Network. We always try to give a little disclaimer here. One thing that we have to remember is that the opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits and do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the ParaX Network, or our sponsors. I'm Barry Strohm, I'm your host, and I'll be doing the channeling tonight.
We would like to thank you for tuning in to our show tonight. I am Connie Strohm, your co-host, and I'll be asking the questions of our spirit guest tonight. Tonight we have a very special spirit guest, Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales. She was the wife of Prince Charles, divorced him, and died in an automobile accident in 1997 at the age of 36. She was known for her work with worldwide charities. She gave birth to two boys, Prince William and Prince Harry, who has been in the news recently because of his marriage to Meghan Markle and their breakup with the royal family. We have channeled with the princess before, and she has answered our questions with honesty and frankness, and I know she'll be doing the same tonight. That's just the way she is.
Well, most of our shows are going to be dedicated to interviewing historic and famous figures. We're also planning a few special shows in the future in which we hope to solve mysteries and even some unsolved crimes. On Christmas, we are going to have Mother Mary join us, and she's going to tell us the truth about the birth of Jesus. Next week's going to be a very, very interesting show. We're going to change the pace a bit, and we're going to be channeling Billy the Kid, the famous outlaw of the Old West. I devoted a chapter to him in my conspiracy book, and his story is far more interesting than the one that's told in the history books. One thing you're going to find out is that he was not killed by Pat Garrett. I'm not going to tell you any more because I'm going to make you listen next week to hear the rest of it. I'm also planning to do a show about John Wilkes Booth and the Lincoln assassination. The story about Booth is not what we hear in the history books. It's much more involved, and you will find out that he was not killed in Virginia, as they say. I actually devoted another chapter in my conspiracy book to the Lincoln assassination, and one of these weeks we're going to cover that as well. Another special show that we're thinking about is talking about Jack the Ripper. We're going to write a book about unsolved crimes, but I got sidetracked with the ones that I have finished and never did it. But when we have channeled about Jack the Ripper before, and the guides have given us his real name, which we will do on the show. For future shows, we welcome any suggestions that you might have. Please submit them to our email which is channeling history on parax@gmail.com. That is channeling history on parax@gmail.com.
We think we have one of the more unique shows on the radio. For one thing, with a few exceptions, all of our guests are dead, and you will not hear them appearing on other shows. When we channel one of our spirit guests, we never have any idea of how the questions will be answered. Here comes my disclaimer. We are not perfect. Sometimes we get answers that are not correct. Sometimes another spirit will slip in and Barry will not pick up the energy change. When Barry's channeling, he rarely remembers the content of the messages he receives. There's also a possibility that he's not correctly speaking the words. What we do is not an exact science. There are times we have a problem with the accuracy of dates. In early times, individuals didn't have calendars and would not have been aware of the years referenced in the modern calendars. Many individuals had no idea how old they were in ancient times.
As always, we welcome your questions through the chat room. I know that a lot of people are interested in Princess Diana, and we are looking forward to hearing what you have to ask of her. Now, we do have questions prepared for our guests, and we do welcome your participation through the chat room as well. Last week we had a wonderful interview with Buddha, the Indian spiritual leader from the 5th century. It was a great show. We have it up on Podmatic, and it's up on my YouTube channel. Channel's in my name, Barry Strohm, S-T-R-O-H-M. All of the shows that we've done are in those 2 locations. You can download them and listen to them whenever you wish, and everything is always free. Tonight, as Connie mentioned, we're going to be speaking with Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales. Her tumultuous marriage with Prince Charles resulted in a divorce, and her death has triggered many conspiracy theories. Tonight, we are going to be asking questions about all of these subjects. All of our previous shows, as I mentioned, are available on my YouTube channel and Podomatic. When we begin channeling tonight, you will hear Connie ask the questions, and I will be answering the questions in the words of the spirits. We have already been talking with the princess. She's anxious to get started. She knows what's coming, and this is going to be one of our better shows. But if you've been listening, you know that before we channel, we always say a prayer of protection, which Connie will now say, and then we will begin to channel with the princess.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our own egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Amen. Okay, Diana, would you like to begin with a message?
Yes. I would like to thank you for inviting me back to speak again. The last time we were together, I enjoyed our conversation, and I tried to answer your questions truthfully. I know that there's very much going on in your busy world right now. I watch from over here, and I often wonder what it would be like if I was back on Earth. But as you all know, I'm not, and being over here gives me a much different perspective on many things from what I thought when I was on Earth. So I know you're anxious to ask questions, so why don't we just begin with them?
Okay, let's start out with, will you tell us what it's like to be on the other side?
It is obviously quite different from anything on Earth. It is a wonderful place over here. I get to see all of my deceased family members, and I can move around and travel. It's just a matter of me wishing where I want to go. Sometimes I can look into the future, and sometimes I can look into the past. I can tell you this. While most humans fear death, it's really not something to be afraid of. It came to me very rapidly, and it was the last thing I was expecting. But now that I'm over here, I realize that there really are certain advantages to being on this side. One day I will choose to come back, but that time will be far in the future.
Okay, would you like to tell us what your childhood was like?
My parents were very close to the royal family. I was raised in a very wealthy family. They were very good people. I had all of the luxuries that I could desire. My parents were very loving, and I felt very close to them. They are wonderful souls, and I have nothing bad that I could ever say. My sister and I were very good friends in growing up, and I consider her a very close friend as well. So I had a very good life growing up. I was given the opportunities to meet the royal family and to be with them. So I had all the privileges of wealth.
How did you meet Prince Charles?
My sister actually introduced me to Prince Charles. She was seeing him and thought that I would enjoy meeting him. So that is how we met.
Why did you marry him?
I knew that there was a possibility that it could be a difficult relationship. But just think, what person would turn down the opportunity to possibly be the Queen of England? I was a bit overwhelmed at the concept that I would be married to possibly the most important figure in the English royal family. So the thought was very overwhelming, and I tried my best to be a good wife.
It's totally understandable. Did you ever love him?
That's a difficult question. I think that I did in the beginning. Maybe I was just telling myself that I loved him, but maybe I was still overwhelmed by the thought of being possibly the Queen of England. But I do believe in the beginning that I truly loved him.
Okay. He was 15 years older than you. Did you think that would be a problem?
I thought that could be a problem. I had also heard rumors about him having relationships with many women. But I felt that if I was a good wife, that I could overcome all of those problems.
Will you describe Prince Charles's personality for us, please?
Prince Charles has a very complicated personality. He has been catered to all of his life. He has an arrogance about him that comes with all of the trimmings of being a member of the royal family. He can be, as I found out, he can be very nasty, and there are times that it is obvious that the only person that he really cares about is himself.
Yeah. Did he tell you that he did not love you on the night before the wedding?
He didn't tell me that directly, but we did have a disagreement. I had told him that I was going to be changing some of the words of the wedding vows, and he was outraged when he heard what I wanted to do. He certainly said that it would be that I was making it a very, very difficult relationship.
Why did you have the word obey removed from your wedding vows?
I was always a very independent person, and I knew the prince had many idiosyncrasies, and that he would want me to do things that I would refuse to do. So I took the wedding vows very seriously, so I removed the words obey so that I would not be taking a vow to obey everything that he said.
Okay. Was Prince Charles having an affair when you got married?
I did not realize it at the time, but yes, he was. I knew that he had been seeing women before we got married, but I thought that he had stopped seeing them when we got married. He had assured me that he would remain true to me once we said our wedding vows.
Did he ever admit to you that he was having an affair?
The time came that he actually was proud of it and told me about it. I think that once he found out that I was doing things that he did not approve of, that he wanted to hurt me by telling me that he and Camilla were having a steady relationship and that she really was the only woman that he would ever love.
I believe that. When did you first learn that Charles was having the affair after your marriage?
I learned about it after I got pregnant the first time. It was devastating when I learned that he had lied to me and that he had no intention of changing.
Did he have affairs with anyone other than Camilla?
Yes, he was seeing multiple women at different times. When I started to learn the actual truth about what he was doing, I was devastated.
Understandable. How many years after you were married did you have your first affair? Which, by the way, I don't blame you for.
It was probably 3 to 4 years. I wanted to strike back. I was so upset by the fact that he was flaunting the relationship in my face that I wanted to do something back that would hurt him.
Okay, you were married for 11 years. Did you have many affairs during that time?
I would not say I had many affairs, but I did have several. I am not proud of them, and I know that it was wrong. Even though he was not keeping the marriage vows, I had vowed to love and honor him as well. And I was, in fact, breaking the vows that I took very, very seriously.
Yeah. What was your opinion of Prince Andrew?
Prince Andrew, when I knew him, shared the same basic arrogance that his brother had. He felt that he could do anything, and that the power of the family would cover up and protect him. Andrew was always living a life of partying and of having beautiful women around him. There was really little that Andrew would not participate in. It was not until I got on this side that I truly understood Prince Andrew and his personality. But once you are over here, there are no secrets.
That could be scary. Is he guilty of participating with Jeffrey Epstein's shenanigans?
Yes. He did participate with Epstein. He did things that he should not have been doing. And he did participate in sexual events with underage women. Once again, he felt that he could do whatever he wished and that the power of the royal family would protect him.
Yeah, it's terrible. What do you think will happen to Prince Andrew?
I think very little officially will happen to Prince Andrew, but the Queen has acted decisively in having him withdrawn from any of the royal family events. In essence, I think from here on out, he will basically be the black sheep of the royal family.
Okay, 12 weeks into your first pregnancy, you fell down a staircase. What happened?
I had just learned that my husband was having multiple affairs, and I was crushed by the information. I had tried to be as good a wife as possible for him. When I heard the information, I was not only devastated, but I went into a very, very deep depression. As a result of that, I threw myself down the stairs. I guess you could say I attempted to commit suicide. As I look back, I am very sorry that I acted like that because I endangered the life of my precious child. But I was so overcome with emotion and sadness that I was not myself. After the event, I realized how foolish it was. They covered up the story and said that I accidentally fell. But that was not true. I suffered much depression through my life. And if any of you out there have ever had depression, you know how debilitating it can really be. I'm very sad that I acted like that, and I promised myself that I would never take such action again.
Is Charles the father of Harry?
Yes, I can tell you unequivocally that Charles is the father of Harry.
Thank you. Did the Queen realize how unhappy you were?
Yes, in the beginning I don't think she did, but as time wore on, I am sure she found out that her son was still having multiple relationships outside of our marriage. I had multiple conversations with her. She kept telling me that we had to keep up a good appearance for the public. I know that she talked to Charles about his relationships with other women, and she asked him to stop, and by doing that, attempted to stabilize our marriage. He lied to her and said that he would, but went on about his relationships as if nothing had happened. I wish that I knew as much now as I did, as much now and as little as I did when the events were taking place. I think if I had discussed things differently with the Queen, she would have taken more definitive steps towards having Charles commit to stopping his relationships. However, none of that took place. He became more convinced that his true love was Camilla, and he realized that in all probability there would be a time where we would be breaking up. Okay, let's take a little break here. We're going to do our commercial thing, and then we will be back and we will continue asking Princess Diana many questions.
Don't go away. Channeling History will return right after these brief messages. You've no doubt heard of Tango and Cash, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Perhaps it takes two to tango. Well, now, on the first and third Thursdays of each month, there's a show called Tango and Friends at 8 p.m. Eastern on the ParaX Radio Network with your host, Bruce Tango. And yes, there will be at least two to tango on each episode, sometimes even more. There's going to be lots of topics and lots of guests you'll all know and lots of surprises. Tango and Friends every first and third Thursday of the month at 8 p.m. right here on the ParaX Radio Network.
I am Oz, the great and powerful. Who are you?
If you please, I'm Dorothy, the small and meek. I've come to ask you...
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come. Step forward, whippersnappers. Bring me the broomstick of a witch.
Martha's broom? But if we do that, we'll have to kill her to get it.
Bring me her broomstick, and I'll grant your request. Now go.
But what if she kills us first?
I said go!
What's that? What's that? It's Martha's castle guard. And look, there's her broom, right in front of the gate. Go get it. All right, I'll go in there, witch or no witch, guards or no guards. I'll tear them apart.
Oh, no, you won't. Don't think of leaving. My little party's just beginning. I always stir my cauldron Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the ParaX Radio Network. Now back off from that broom or I'll turn you into Toto's chew toy.
I do believe in witches. I do.
Have you ever wondered what Jesus and his followers would say if you could receive their messages today? In his new book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, channeler and author Barry Strohm answers those questions for you. Using his gift of spirit communication, he brings you messages from such Holy Spirits as Moses, John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, and even Mother Teresa and the Reverend Billy Graham. They discuss topics that are important for contemporary life in these troubled times. Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Signed copies are available on the author's website, spiritspredict.com. After reading this book, you will never again say, "What would Jesus say or do?"
Era X Radio.
Welcome back to Channeling History. Now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Welcome back, everybody. As you caught on from the commercial, my latest book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, is now available. On the 18th, it will be available for download on Amazon if you want to get it in ebook format. If you want a signed copy, you have to come to one of our websites. Spiritspredict.com is a good one to start with. So, let us get back to what we were discussing with Princess Diana. Connie, would you like to ask the next question?
I would. Diana, what made you finally decide, okay, it's time for a divorce? I've had enough.
Charles became so overbearing with his relationship. And I think we reached a point where he actually wanted to divorce himself. He wanted to be with Camilla. I don't know what his fascination was for the woman, but he kept telling me repeatedly that he hated me, that he never loved me, and that we would be better off if we truly did get a divorce. I had fought it as long as I could. I did not want Charles to be a huge influence upon the children. I loved my children very much, and they were the most important things in the world to me. I fought it as long as I could, but finally made up my mind that it would be best if I got a divorce and permanently left the royal family.
Yeah. What was your opinion of the Queen?
She kept trying to keep us together. She was of the opinion that appearances meant more than a happy relationship. She accepted our decision and attempted to make attempted to spin the story of our divorce in the manner both most favorable to the royal family.
Has your opinion changed now that you're on the other side?
The only thing that I know, since I am now on the other side, is that I should have divorced him sooner. The understanding that you have when you're over here is much different. I now know that the Queen was putting up a good face over what was taking place, but that my leaving the royal family really angered her. I had been doing a lot of good charity work, and that charity work was reflecting well on the on the royal family. The fact that what I was doing was aiding the image of the family was really the most important thing in the Queen's mind.
Yeah.
I did not truly understand how the divorce truly angered her.
Okay, we have some questions from the chat room, Diana. The first one, did you ever feel as though the royal family really didn't want you to be who Charles married because you weren't royalty?
In the beginning, there was some conversation as to that fact, but after our marriage, I tried to do the best that I could to protect the family. So in the beginning, there was some blowback because of that, but after all, look at how my son married. No one could have been further from a royal bloodline than Meghan.
You got that right. So, okay, and another question from our chat room. How did your sons feel about their father?
My sons feel a bitterness towards their father. As they have grown older, they have learned much that I kept from them. They are really good men. I love my sons. They are the best thing that ever happened in my life. But I never told them much of what Charles had done to us. So yes, they are, as they learned and grew older, they did develop a certain bitterness.
Yeah. Okay. What was your opinion of the paparazzi?
I hated them. They never gave us a moment's rest. I knew that being part of the royal family meant that many were trying to take stories or photographs and make news of them. They never gave us a moment's rest. Whenever we were in public, they were always trying to take pictures. I always felt that they represented a danger to the family. I especially tried to protect the boys from them. They are like leeches. So I have a very, very low opinion of the paparazzi.
Yes, understandably. What do you consider your most important charity that you were involved in?
I felt many of the charities I was involved with were very important. When I lived, AIDS was a huge problem. I tried to do my best to help in the research and to care for individuals with AIDS. There are areas of the world where people live in unimaginable poverty. I tried my best to bring help to those individuals. I wish today that many of the individuals that have accumulated such great wealth would dedicate some of that wealth to helping the poor in some of the most backward areas on our planet. I also felt that my campaign to eliminate abandoned landmines was very important. There were large areas of the world that had seen conflict and where these dangerous explosives had been left to maim and kill the residents of the area. So it's really hard for me to describe a single charity because I felt that they were most all very important.
I totally agree with you on that. A short question from the chat room. Are you able to see your grandchildren now?
Yes, I love my grandchildren as I love my children. Archie is very cute, and I think is going to be very devilish when he grows. The other grandchildren are wonderful and will make wonderful members of the royal family.
Yes, you made a very good contribution to the royal family. No doubt about that. Okay, after your divorce, did you have an affair with Hazmat Khan?
Yes, he was truly a wonderful person. We had wonderful times together, and he was a very unique individual. Sadly, family pressures upon him caused our relationship to come to an end. But I did truly love him. He was a good man, and I have nothing but good to say about him.
Okay. Another question from the chat room. What would you do differently today about how you interacted with the paparazzi?
That is a difficult question. As I said, there is no medium ground with the paparazzi. They have but one desire, which is to try to make news through a photograph. I think if I was alive today, I would try to avoid events where the paparazzi could not be controlled and kept at an arm's length.
Okay. What was your opinion of Dodi Fayed?
I liked Dodi. He was a good man as well. He was very kind, and we also had fun and enjoyed being together.
Okay. Were you going to marry him?
We had discussed it. He pointed out that his faith would be a problem for us. But I think that if events had not taken place as they did, I would have probably at some time married him.
Okay. Would you describe the events that took place on the night of your accident?
We were at a social event. We had, my driver was with us, and he also acted as security for us. Apparently, he was either given drugs or he drank too much. But when we tried to leave the event, he did not seem to be himself. We had no choice but to try to get away from the paparazzi. They were all around us. They were trying to cut off the car. They were attempting to take pictures through the windows of the automobile. They were acting more aggressive than we had ever seen them before. Now I know that there was a reason why they were acting so aggressively.
So you were murdered?
Yes.
And what was the reason for that?
The reason we were murdered was that there were rumors that I would be marrying Fayed, and as you know, he was a Muslim. The royal family did not want the ex-princess and mother of children that would in all probability become king to be married to a member of a faith that was not related to the Christianity of the royal family. I do believe that our driver was drugged because he was driving at such an excessive rate of speed. The paparazzi, or those who were believed to be paparazzi, cut off our vehicle, and it slammed in to the concrete at a high rate of speed. The next thing I knew, I was over here, and I would never walk in the body of Princess Diana again.
Did the Queen order your murder?
I don't think that she truly ordered it, but I know that she was aware of it. She was, once again, trying to protect the appearance of the royal family, and as I now know, she will do anything to maintain the royal appearances.
What's your opinion of Meghan Markle?
My son Harry truly loves Meghan, and I do not want to truly say anything bad against her. However, she is a very demanding wife and does not have a true love for the royal family or the royal appearances.
Okay, what is your opinion of Prince Harry and Meghan leaving the royal family?
I truly wish that they had not done that. You never know what the long-term problems that they may create for themselves will be. As long as they maintain an attitude that does not conflict with those of the Queen and her advisors, they should be okay. I would caution them that they need to remember what happened to me. If the time comes that they become a true nuisance for the royal family, the Queen will take action and do something to maintain the appearance of the family. So I would advise them that they need to be careful.
For the most part, do you think they're making the right decisions?
No. I think that they are thinking only of themselves at this time. They need to remember that Harry's bloodline is unique in the world. He is actually, though not close, but he could be the King of England. That will now never happen. I think that Meghan is manipulating him, and I know that Harry truly loves her. So they need to live their lives with respect of Harry's past.
So, in regards to a question that we have here in the chat room, they wonder, will Harry ever return to England and his royal duties? So you don't think that he's going to?
Meghan, at this time, will never allow it. As long as Harry feels the way that he does about her, I do not believe that it will ever happen.
Yeah. Do you believe that Harry and Meghan's marriage will last?
I hope that it will for Harry's sake. I hope that it will for Archie's sake. But Meghan is putting pressures upon him that will be very difficult for him to handle. If she allows him space and compromises with things that he would like to do, then their marriage will last.
Okay. What is your opinion of Kate, Prince William's wife?
Kate is a wonderful woman. She will make a wonderful queen. She is a beautiful mother and adores the children. So I could not be more pleased with Kate.
That's wonderful. Do you think William will be the next King of England?
Yes, I believe that he will be the next Queen of England. I do not believe that the Queen wants Charles to be king because of the way he has acted through the years with his womanizing and with his personality. So I do think that William will be the next King of England.
That's what I'm hoping for the sake of England. If you could speak to William, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to continue living his life as he is currently living it. Maintain the respect of the royal family. Do not do anything that would besmirch the family. Know that you are royalty and that the time will come when you will be the true King of England.
Okay, we have one last question from our chat room. It says, what advice would you have for women today to bring in a goddess energy and what we as women can do to help humanity?
Women can help humanity by sharing the basic love that they have in their hearts. Women have power over men. They can instill a sense of love in them, and they can lead, showing love for others. There is much that women can do. They need to not be confined to the household, and they need to be able to live their lives in freedom.
Okay. Do you have a final message for us?
Yes. I would like to thank all of you for allowing me to be here tonight. I have enjoyed this. I've tried to be truthful, and I've tried to tell you much of what is taking place within the royal family and many of the decisions that they have made in the past. I want you to know that I hope that all of you will continue to carry on some of the charities that I began, especially caring for the poor and looking after those that cannot look after themselves. So with that, I'm going to say good night. Thank you for having me again. If you wish for me to come back, I would certainly be happy to do it.
Thank you so much, Diana. I think that your fan club has grown even more tonight.
Yes, wonderful session. She's a beautiful soul, and you can feel her loving energy when she's here with us. So anyway, next week we are going to be channeling Billy the Kid, one of the most famous outlaws of the Old West. His death is absolutely not as reported in the history books, and I guarantee you that you will enjoy the true story when you hear it next week. I would appreciate it if you would submit questions in advance through our email. That's channelinghistoryonparax@gmail.com. I would also appreciate it if you would send us recommendations for future shows. We have an idea of what we want to do, but we want to follow the wishes of our wonderful listening audience. So if you would all do us a favor, tell your friends about the show. It is a unique show, and I assure you that everything that we talk about is the way we hear it. So I would like to thank you for listening to us tonight. Please join us on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the ParaX Radio Network.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and God bless you all.
Thank you all, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.